12 News is your local election headquarters. Tonight, live, the 2026 Democratic primary governor debate.
Live from Rhode Island College in Providence, a televised debate with the Democratic candidates for governor of Rhode Island. Welcome inside Sappensley Hall on the campus of Rhode Island College, where for the next 60 minutes before a live audience, the two candidates will debate each other on a host of issues affecting Rhode Islanders. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim White.
And I'm Ted Nesi. In less than 48 hours, early voting will begin, and Democratic primary voters will choose a nominee to lead the state into the 2030s.
And the two candidates are, from left to right on your screen, incumbent Governor Dan McKee and former CVS executive Helena Foulkes.
Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 60-second closing statement at the end of this debate.
Now, candidates, you both know we're looking for an open and honest discussion of the issues. We will allow for you to engage with each other, but if you're taking too long or you're not answering the question, we're going to jump in. Let's begin. I want to start with education. Mr. McKee, you signed a bill that puts a moratorium on new charter schools, a pause for the next 3 years. 10 years ago, in an interview on Newsmakers, you told Ted and I that a host of anti-charter bills that were less impactful than the moratorium bill you signed were, quote, disturbing, a hoax built on untruths, half-truths, and some misinformation. Charter advocates feel betrayed by you. What changed?
Well, first, thanks for having us here. I'm happy to be at Rhode Island College. I am the governor that's working on education every single day. This is the home of the Hope Scholarship. This is the home of the Cybersecurity School. And I'm pleased to be here because right now people need to know the work that I've done in education. I'm so happy you talked about education. So it's a pause on a charters. It's not a closing down, and we need the pause. We have 10,000 less students right now in our public and charter schools than when I became governor. This is a time they really dig down on terms of the charters, but take a look what we've got done. The attendance matters alone, which we put into play. We're 5th in the country on recovering attendance. Our scores are going up. I've set a goal to meet or exceed Massachusetts levels by 2030, and we are going to meet those. We already closed the gap by almost 40% on our reading and 30% on our math. I understand this area significantly better than my opponent. There's no way that you could even come close. So we're going to continue to invest in our young people. More money has gone into our public schools since I've been governor than any 4-year time frame in the history of the state of Rhode Island.
Before I get to your opponent, look, Governor, you've heard it, right? People think you signed the bill for political gain to curry favor with the teachers' unions, and you did end up getting their endorsement. What do you say to that?
I signed the bill because it was in the best interest of the people in the state of Rhode Island and students that go to our schools, period. And the reason I did it is because we've set goals. Look, I've been at multiple community learning centers that have opened up around the state of Rhode Island. I'm going to take control of all the out-of-school learning, and I'm going to complement what's happening inside the school buildings, whether they're charter or whether they're public. And those municipal learning centers are going to help all our families in the state of Rhode Island, whether they're in a district school, a charter school, a public, a home school, whether they're going to a private school. My passion for this issue, for someone to be out there saying that somehow that, I sold out the kids, that is crazy. Hey, just take a look at my dad. He started the boys club in town. I grew up in a boys club. I have been working with young people my entire life, and I am not going to put them at risk for any politics.
You know, Ms. Foulkes, the teachers union supported the measure because they say charter schools divert resources from traditional public schools at a time when they are already straining under tight budgets. You say you like to listen to people, but why do you think you know better than teachers do on this issue?
Well, I want to start by saying, first of all, really great to be here, and thank you for having me. The governor seems quite pleased with what he's done on education. I'm not. I don't think the teachers are, and certainly students and parents. Look at the Providence takeover, 7 years of a takeover. And right now, 7 out of 10 children in the city of Providence can't perform at grade level. Central Falls, the longest state takeover in United States history of a public school system. The mayor had to fight to get that school control back. So there are a lot of problems in our school system today. I thought we were having the wrong conversation about the pause on charter schools, the moratorium. The governor mentions 10,000. There are 10,000 students on a wait list right now for 3,000 charter school seats.
But to be clear, you're against the moratorium.
I'm opposed to the moratorium because
We'll explain why.
I have looked in the eyes of these parents whose 10,000 children are on this waiting list. These are mostly black and brown children who are living in Providence and the inner city, and they want access to the best schools for their children. And I'm a mom of 4. I understand that. So I think we're having the wrong conversation. We should be focused on the things that I really hear about from teachers, things like mental health. They say to me, the kids are not okay. How about working on things like making sure every child can read by 3rd grade? And then a big, big focus on career and technical education. So I think the governor did do this to get the support of the teachers union, and people understand that he's making political decisions right now because he is desperate. He's looking for their support. He's been a long-time charter school advocate, and the parents know this, and I really think it's a shame.
Mr. McKee, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so, Helena doesn't know what she's talking about. Just period. The Providence schools are doing better today than when I showed up. And now they're in the hands of the community, the city, the municipality. I had a lot to do with that. I announced that Central Falls needed to go back 3 years ago, and we finally got it done. And cooperating with the mayor and building a new high school in that community. So, look, I understand this issue about education better than any governor who's ever sat in this seat. My opponent has never been interested in public education because she's a corporate leader that goes to private schools. Look, I've spent my time as a mayor, as a lieutenant governor, and a governor doing everything I can to make sure our young people reach their potential, and I've done that, and I'm going to continue to do that for the next 4 years.
Ms. Foulkes, 30 seconds.
Well, this is how tonight's going to go. The governor really has no record to run on, so he will use his time to attack me. But what I have to just take a moment and say he was cooperating with the mayor of Central Falls. The mayor of Central Falls could not get a meeting with this governor to discuss the take-back of her schools. She was told to go to a fundraiser so she could meet with the governor, and that is a fact. And that's how this state works.
Yeah.
Briefly, please.
My opponent is entitled to her own opinions, but not to the facts. I have a monthly meeting with every municipal leader in the state of Rhode Island. Mayor Rivera doesn't show up for that. Other mayors show up for that. And we talk about the issues that are important to the communities. And by the way, we sent extra help in during the blizzard to Central Falls. We got $10 million going into a community learning center in Central Falls. We got more money going into housing during my watch than ever before. So this nonsense that my opponent's trying to throw out, look, I don't care who supports me from the mayor's office. I support the people that I serve. And that's why the people who work for a living support me in virtually every single union in the state, whether it's the teachers, whether it's the laborers, whether it's the firefighters, whether it's the nurses. They are with me because they know I'm with them, and they know that my opponent is not.
Well, let me just jump in. I mean, the parents in Providence are very upset about what has happened under the state takeover. 7 years, nothing to show for it, as I said. And he made this decision to give the school control back very late this spring, again, for political reasons. He knew that the system wanted it back. He decided that was another way to curry favor. That's what he has been doing this entire election to win the votes of people instead of doing the right thing for the people.
We have to move on to the next.
I know that, but I got to add, there's more school buildings being built in the city of Providence since I've been governor than ever before. And the record is very clear. The mayor would like those schools back. The school committee chair would like those schools back. I worked with them, and they got their schools back. And now we're going to continue to work in Providence, just like we always have in every school district in the state of Rhode Island.
And I called for the schools to go back when I got in this race, which was last September.
All right, let's move on to another issue. Frankly, hardly any issues in this race have gotten more attention than the opioid crisis and the Washington Bridge. Let's talk about those. Ms. Foulkes, I want to ask you about Raymond Cranack. According to prosecutors, during your tenure as head of CVS's retail pharmacies, Dr. Cranack was the top prescriber of OxyContin, fentanyl, and other opioids in the state of Pennsylvania. Some patients called him the candy man. Pharmacists and others inside CVS sent 17 warnings to corporate about him, more than for any other prescriber in the country. And CVS even learned he was under federal investigation. Yet the U.S. Attorney says the pharmacies you oversaw allowed him to keep filling prescriptions for more than 3 years, even after other drugstores cut him off. He's now in prison for contributing to the deaths of 5 people. Why did CVS Pharmacy, under your leadership, ignore so many red flags for so many years about Dr. Kranak?
Well, when I took over running CVS stores, this was January of 2014, and the crisis was raging. It was really an epidemic and very, very hard to jump into and to solve. But what I did was took action right away. Under my watch, we had an almost 40% reduction in opioids dispensed, more than anyone in this country. And I'll tell you a few things we did. We cut off over 600 pill mill doctors, because we could see in their prescribing they were overprescribing. No other pharmacy cut off any doctors. We were the one who did that. We did the biggest drug take-back this country's ever seen. And under my watch, we led legislation in all 50 states to make sure that people got fewer pills after minor surgery, like a root canal, where you used to get 30 pills after that by law, and now only 10. So all these things were under my watch. Also under my watch, we walked away from $2 billion in cigarette sales. $2 billion
you're speaking
a year.
generally. I want to know about this specific case.
I don't.
So you are not aware of the Dr. Kranak case?
Listen, we cut off over 600 pill mill doctors. I can't speak to any one in particular. I wish that we had cut off even more. I will say that. You know, anytime you're leading through a crisis like this, there's more you want to do. I think every day about the families that are affected by this. I think it's atrocious that this governor is politicizing this issue, because I have heard from many in the recovery community, they don't want their personal tragedy being made into politics. And my heart goes out to people. But yes, we took strong action. There's no other retailer in this country who cut off any doctor. We missed some, but we did so much. And under my watch, as I said, we had an almost 40% reduction.
Do you accept that explanation, Mr. McKee?
The U.S. Attorney and our own Attorney General was quoted, our Attorney General was quoted that before much time goes further, the three CVS, Walgreens, and also the other facilities, they are going to get caught because they put profits ahead of people. And now the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney has said that under my opponent's watch, because she's told us that she was in charge of all the things happening at the retail and the pharmacies, that they sold 800,000 pills in an East Providence CVS store in 2014, in the very first year that my opponent was president of the pharmacies. Look, they pressured the pharmacists to fill orders that they shouldn't be filling. That's right in the report. Look, she's not going to apologize for her behavior in this area, and she's not going to come to terms with the fact that she hurt a lot of people, including the people at CVS.
That is not
Remember,
true.
I'm not talking about CVS on this one. I'm talking about the person who was running the pharmacies that the U.S. Attorney is saying that they were putting profits ahead of the safety of the people in the state of Rhode Island.
Ms. Foulkes?
I wish the governor understood the East Providence store he's referring to. Many of you at home probably know it's a 24-hour store right off the highway, 195, and it serves the whole East Bay, even parts of Massachusetts, because it is 24 hours. It even serves parts of Providence at night. So if you're leaving the hospital, Rhode Island Hospital, and you need to get a prescription filled, that is where you're going. So the frame of reference is wrong. The governor loves to talk about this, and he has talked several times about the Attorney General. The Attorney General has, in fact, endorsed me in this race. So he got comfortable with the actions that we took. And he is also always trying to attack CVS. CVS has 7,000 employees in this state. Okay? These are families that are so dedicated to this company and were working very, very hard during this period. It was very challenging. And leadership is a moment where you're thrust into something and you have to take action, and that's what we did.
10 seconds, and we're moving on.
Yeah, my opponent needs to stop hiding behind a great company like CVS, that her bad leadership put them in jeopardy of paying billions of dollars of settlements, and there's one coming. So you're going to have the opportunity to sit when you get, deposed, to tell the U.S. attorney that he's lying when he's actually putting out this information.
I've never been deposed. I've never been charged.
You will
and when
be.
he talks about a great company like CVS, by the way, this governor has not even spoken to the CVS CEO in almost 2 years, okay? An employer with 7,000 employees in this state.
All right,
you would
candidates,
have thought after Hasbro he would have reached out to them.
I think the voters know where you both stand. Let's turn to the bridge. As far as I know, please, audience, as far as I know, no one disputes, Mr. McKee, that it was the right decision to close the bridge for safety reasons, and no one disputes other governors bear much of the blame for its deterioration. But when the bridge closed, you told the public you'd have a new bridge open by this September at a cost of $368 million. The bridge is now expected to be done in late 2028 at a cost of $428 million. Why do the signs on the bridge say on time and on budget when it's over 2 years later than originally promised and $60 million over that original budget?
No, immediately we shut down the bridge to keep people safe, and that's my job. And I did that, and we made sure that we got out and made sure that we could tear down the old bridges. It took 90 days to determine that it actually, that the people who were giving us the investigations and the inspections were giving us the wrong information. They misdiagnosed the problem. That's why we're going after them in lawsuits. The process was that we went out for bids. We got what we needed. We got somebody to tear down the bridge. And then we won aggressively. We wanted to go aggressively to make sure that if we were able to save money and save time, we would. We didn't lose any time. We got somebody to tear down the bridge. And then within 6 months, before the bridge was totally down, we had a contract in place. We had a price in place. I negotiated both with the Biden administration and the Trump administration for over $220 million. The money's in the bank. We got what we need. We are ahead of schedule on the contract that was signed with one of the very best bridge builders in the country. So my job was to keep people safe, and I did that. And my opponent's job, when her turn was to keep people safe, she didn't.
But, Governor, when you say that no time was lost, there were months lost because the first bidding process yielded no bids.
No, Tim, you're wrong. No, let me the first bid process gave us what we needed to tear down the bridge.
I mean,
we could not build a new bridge until we tore down the bridge. So we had a contract in place far before Maryland did, which my opponent was, trying to crack a couple jokes at my expense that actually they were ahead of us. We actually are ahead of them by a couple years. Look, we didn't lose time, Tim. We went out with a bid. We got somebody to demolish the bridge that needed to come down. And we got that. And then before that bridge was fully demolished, 6 months before, we had a contract in place with one of the best bridge builders in the entire country to build the bridge. And now they are building the bridge. So I don't understand your timeline.
You remember the RFP.
Could we have built the bridge before we...
July 3rd, July 3rd, 2024, one of our reporters interviewed at the airport, and you acknowledged that no bids had come in for the RFP.
No bids to build a new bridge, but we had bids to tear down the bridge. And that's what you needed. You needed to be able to tear down the bridge before you could build a new bridge.
Ms. Foulkes?
This is ridiculous, okay? Ridiculous. He waited 6 months for a contracting process. He had such severe penalties in this contract process because he was desperate to build a bridge by this election, and at the end of 6 months, no one bid. It's just the truth, okay? And what's happened is Rhode Islanders are stuck in traffic. Their lives have been upended. I have been to businesses on the both sides of the bridge who are just down and suffering. And we have signs that say on time and on budget. This is not true. I remember when the signs went up that said, "Thank you for your patience." I met this older woman in Barrington. She said to me, "Helena, every time I see that sign, I want to get my BB gun out and shoot it." And I thought, you go. We all do. This is frustrating. You know, one of the joys of living in Rhode Island is that it's easy to get places. And this governor wasted our time and our money with a political bidding process.
Mr. McKee?
Well, first of all, that's not accurate. Again, my opponent is entitled to her opinions, but she's not entitled to have her own facts. The fact of the matter is we shut down the bridge because we kept people safe. That was my job, and I did it. And then For her to say, for my opponent to say that somehow we wasted time, it takes time to build a bridge. And we took time to put together a bid to get somebody to demolish the bridge. So right now, look, we kept people safe. It's been a pain in the ass for everybody. I haven't denied that, and I understand that. And so I understand that it is a problem for people, but the alternative would have been far worse, to let this bridge go just because, and in past history, we have left work on that bridge for political reasons.
And
so look,
I'll let you go 30 seconds, and then we have to move on.
The governor approached this problem the way he approaches every problem in the state, with total lack of urgency. Okay? That's what leadership is about, a sense of urgency. The other thing is nothing changed at the DOT. Okay? He said a day of reckoning would come. Nothing happened. I called for Peter Alviti to be fired the day I got in this race. It took far too long for him eventually to go. But even under Alviti, so many changes need to be made. Insourcing engineering, having tight control over inspections, changing the culture of the place. There's a lot of work to be done, and that's why we need new leadership.
We're going to go to bridges and putting more asphalt down than ever in the history of the state of Rhode Island, and the facts show that that's true.
Candidates, a rapid-fire section now. We want to get through some topics pretty quickly, so I'm looking for 1 or 2 word answers here. I'm going to rotate the order. Mr. McKee, we'll start with you. Rhode Island's minimum wage is set to go to $17 an hour by 2027, but some want it to go higher. Would you sign or veto a bill that would raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour by 2027?
Yeah, so I'm in favor of raising the minimum wage.
So you would sign?
So I'll have to take a look at a bill if it comes to my desk, but also with raising incomes around the state.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. Sign or veto?
I would sign that.
Okay. The U.S. Supreme Court has significantly limited the Federal Voting Rights Act. Advocates of the Rhode Island Voting Rights Act say if passed, the law will build on the original protections. Ms. Foulkes, would you sign or veto the Rhode Island Voting Rights Act?
I think the Secretary of State's done an excellent job. We are far safer than most of the country, and I would support further enhancements.
So you would sign it?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yeah, I would follow the lead of the Secretary as well. He's done a good job protecting our right to vote. That's why I signed the legislation to keep ICE away from the perimeter.
You would sign the Voting Rights Act? The Rhode Island Voting Rights Act?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Former House Speaker Mr. McKee, Joe Shekarchi's pursuit of the state Supreme Court has reintroduced the public to the revolving door law, which bars lawmakers from getting a state job for a year after they leave office. There is a disagreement if that law applies to a seat on the Supreme Court. Would you support or oppose a constitutional amendment that would apply the revolving door law to the Supreme Court?
I'm already looking into it.
So,
and that's how it has to be corrected. It has to be corrected through a constitutional amendment, and I'm already looking into ways to make that
thank
happen.
you, Mr. McKee. Ms. Foulkes?
I absolutely will. I think the spirit of ethics reform 20 years ago was to say that no one in office today should be any kind of a judge within 12 months of serving.
Thank you. And final question in rapid fire. We're in Sappensley Hall. Would you sign or veto the Lila Manfield Sappensley Compassion Act or the Right to Die bill that would allow adults with a terminal illness to self-administer life-ending medications? Sign or veto, Ms. Foulkes?
Absolutely, I would sign it. I have watched people I love die. It's a very painful thing to do, and the compassion that goes into end of life is important to me, and I would like patients and families to have
control. Thank you, Ms. Foulkes. Mr. McKee?
Yeah, so I'm interested in looking at it. I've talked to the rep that actually sponsoring that.
Do you lean anyway?
I want to see it.
Okay. Ted?
Candidates, Rhode Island has the most aggressive deadline in the country for utilities to switch to 100% renewable energy. They have to do that by 2033 under current law. Other Democratic governors, including Maura Healey and Kathy Hochul, are changing their timelines like this because of rising costs and the Trump administration's policy changes. Ms. Foulkes, if you're elected governor, will you keep the 2033 renewables deadline or ask the General Assembly to delay it?
Well, the governor and I disagree a lot on energy. I have called his plan a false choice between saving money and saving the planet. And to get to your question specifically, he has wasted time since he signed the Act on Climate. He's essentially done nothing to bring more renewables onto the grid, and so we are far behind. I think that politicians make a mistake of picking random dates that they can't hit. So I'm less focused on the date. I believe it will probably have to move out, but I'm much more focused on making sure we make a very strong lean into wind and solar. They're the cheapest form of energy. They save the planet, and people are suffering right now, so there's much more to be done.
Mr. McKee?
Look, there's no more important issue right now is to lower our energy costs. My opponent's plan will actually raise the energy cost for people in the state of Rhode Island. Let's be clear. I'm the person that went and said, look, there's $1 billion of savings on the portion of the bill that the state controls. I got $500 million. I'm going back for the other $500 million. Let's call up the PUC. There's got $180 million of relief that I'm asking the PUC to do right now. So my opponent, are you going to call up the PUC and get the other $180 million that's on the table? We are in a spot right now where people are suffering because of their electric bill. Everywhere I go. My opponent, you know, she's earned enough money, I guess, to not worry about her energy bills. Me, I am with the people. I'm not with the company, and we have controlled costs there. We have gone after the company, Rhode Island Energy. We've lowered some of their incentives. We've lowered their profit margin. Actually, we're going in there right now and asking for a lower profit margin as well. But this is an important issue. And for my opponent to have a plan that doesn't work and it's going to add cost to ratepayers in the state of Rhode Island is really a shame.
All right, I'm giving you 30 seconds.
Let's talk about let's calling up, okay? Let's call up Rhode Island Energy, a monopoly owned by a Pennsylvania-based company. This governor has not pushed back on them at all, and that's a big reason Rhode Islanders are paying higher utility bills, okay? He says he talks about not being with a company. 2 years ago, our own Attorney General had to fight this governor to get $200 million of rate relief inside this state from Rhode Island Energy. This governor has never pushed back on a big monopoly. He's not fighting for the people of Rhode Island. That's exactly what I'll do when I win.
20 seconds, and we have to move on, Mr.
Yeah,
McKee.
20 seconds on that. Look, she's wrong. Our administration negotiated that $200 million. That came through our Division of Public Utilities. Again, she's showing that she doesn't understand the way government works.
All right, I want to talk about a technology that is getting a lot of attention, and I have to tell you, our newsroom is getting a lot of calls on it, and that is flock cameras. Mr. McKee, hours before this debate, you called for a pause on the installation of new flock cameras by the state police, and you urged cities and towns to do the same. Your pause applies to new cameras, but existing state police license plate readers remain operating during a 60-day review. If there is a real privacy question and serious enough to freeze new installations, why aren't those the same concerns serious enough to pause the cameras already collecting data?
Yeah, so we're going to do a pause on the state. We've asked the municipalities to pause as well. We're going to do a 60-day review with our Colonel Weaver heading the charge in terms of taking a look at and making sure that we're balancing the safety issues and protection, protecting people's rights as well. So we'll see what that report is. What I anticipate is there'll be some form of legislation that we'll put in to make sure that that we're keeping people safe and protected at the same time, not imposing on their.
Was there any thought or any talk within your office about flipping the switch and turning them off right now until you get your arms around the technology?
I think that you need to know what you're talking about right now, and that 60-day review is a short review. We'll be ready for the General Assembly if, in fact, we need to make some sort of legislative move.
Ms. Foulkes, we'll turn to you on this issue. Did the governor make the right call by pausing new installations? Is this something where you two actually have common ground?
I think we mostly agree on this. I do wonder why, after the state having 4 years of flock cameras, he's doing this 3 weeks before the election. But I think that it's a really important thing to try to balance a sense of security and safety. And law enforcement is very, very supportive of this. It's solved many crimes. It's kept us safe in many ways. But we also know that there have been some real violations of privacy. So I think this is something that he could have been working on earlier, and I certainly support the pause.
I want to do a quick technology question, then I'm going to give it to Ted. This is on data centers. Rhode Island is being asked to grant a sales tax exemption on the equipment inside data centers to promote construction of them in the state. It's a policy supported by some major labor unions. Mr. McKee, yes or no, would you sign a sales tax exemption to help promote data centers in Rhode Island?
No.
Ms. Foulkes?
No.
Okay. Ted?
We'll stick with you, Ms. Foulkes. Last winter, a Target 12 investigation found Rhode Island had the worst state roads in the country as of 2024, which was 2 years into your opponent's tenure. But Rhode Island also had the worst state roads in 2019 under Governor Raimondo. And Rhode Island had the worst state roads in 2014 under Governor Chafee. So that's 3 governors in a row with the same outcome.
Yeah.
What can you seriously tell voters you would do differently that would actually lead to a different outcome here when it's been the same under 3 very different administrations?
Yeah, it's really frustrating for Rhode Islanders. One of my sisters lives in Massachusetts, and she says every time she drives into Rhode Island, she says, "Oh my goodness, why are the roads so bad here?" We've had a doubling of our expenditures under this governor's watch, from $449 million 5 years ago to $1 billion this year, and still we rank dead last in the country. I think this is a good example of the problem at the top. I will do a national search when I am governor for an expert from somewhere else in the country who has no connections to anyone in Rhode Island. This has been a place where you got to know a guy to get things done. It is really quite ugly in our state's history. We need to also be looking at bringing engineers back in-house, a whole rethinking of how we run DOT. We outsourced inspections. And the governor and Peter Alviti said, well, we're not in control of inspections because we outsource the inspectors. That's ludicrous. That's crazy. We need to have a total review of the DOT to make sure every dollar we are spending goes to maximize the safety and security of our roads.
Briefly, before I go to the governor, can you pledge that Rhode Island will not have the worst state roads in the country if you are elected?
Well, I pledge that I will work very hard to make that happen, and I can't imagine we'll have the 50th worst roads once I'm governor, because I'll bring in someone who really knows what they're doing. We have lacked that. We did not have someone at the top, at the DOT, who had national experience on bridges and roads.
Again, total misinformation. And we know this to be true because I've talked to the people who do these ratings. It's 2 or 3 year lag on where we are right now. That's a fact. When I came into office, there was no plan for asphalt. I put $100 million in the budget and freed up $450 million of asphalt work. Now that's why 295's done, 146's done, 95's done, and also over $450 million, almost $500 million to help with our bridges. All the blue bridges are either new bridge or like new bridges. Again, my opponent, her corporate experience is really dangerous. Think about when she was at Hudson. She laid off 2,000 people while she's, benefiting the banks, benefiting the CEOs, making $80,000 a day while she's laying off
How
people.
How's that affected to bridges and roads, Governor?
Well, I'm telling you, what it affects is the way that you manage and mismanage in that space. So
this is the poster child for mismanagement.
The opioids, we know that you mismanaged that.
We have
and
the worst bridges and roads in the country.
Reframing DOT.
We had a bridge over Amtrak that fell down under
I think that I've got the right to answer this question. I mean, we seem to be jumping on the facts that I'm putting out.
Finish your answer, Mr. McKee, please.
Yes, this matters of how you manage. And when she was managing Hudson Bay, she laid off 2,000 people while she's making $80,000 a day. Her point of reference on this is just not where the world lives in terms of working with people. Laughing at people basically on the way out the door saying they're low-hanging fruit.
Just briefly before I'll let Ms. Foulkes respond, but do you expect then that Rhode Island will no longer be in last place for state roads once the more up-to-date
I know
data
that
comes?
we've made significant improvements. By the way, I put a municipal grant fund in place. The municipalities have now done over $150 million of local roads. And by the way, if anybody out there sees a pothole, dial 511. 511. We will respond to that pothole within 48 hours. We've already done 1,000 of them, so we put up the system.
All right, thank you, Ms. Foulkes. On the Hudson's Bay,
it does matter how you manage. I couldn't agree more with the governor. The governor's role is the top executive function in this state. Okay? It really matters. He is asking for an unprecedented 3rd term, and we are last in this country in bridges and roads. And as to his allegations around Hudson's Bay, I walked into a crisis. This was a company, bricks and mortar retail, hadn't invested in all the online digital tools, and things were really rough when I got there. I had 100 days that I put for myself to figure things out. The low-hanging fruit, I would never refer to people as low-hanging fruit. What I was talking about with low-hanging fruit was the IT systems, all the work that we needed to do to rebuild that company. In 100 days, I made some tough people decisions at the top. Not everyone at the top could make it. I made those decisions quickly, so I got the right team in place. That's exactly what the state needs.
Yeah. All right, candidates.
The banks got paid. The executives got rich, including my opponent, at $80,000 a day.
We heard you.
And
we heard
people
you, Mr.
got
McKee.
laid off and sent home. As a governor, I don't send people home.
Ms. Foulkes, rent control.
We should be very worried about her background.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. We're going to move on now. Ms. Foulkes, rent control has been a hot issue in Providence. If David Morales wins the mayor's race over Brett Smiley, there will almost certainly be a rent control ordinance, something I believe you both have opposed. If the General Assembly passed legislation to block rent control in Providence, would you sign it?
I really haven't thought about that yet, because what I want to do is we have a housing crisis. I agree with a lot of the people who are worried about rent control. It comes from the same place. That place is feeling that you've been priced out of housing in this state. There's not a single city or town in Rhode Island today where a family making $100,000 a year could afford to buy a home. Rents in Providence are out of control. The only way to solve this crisis is to build a lot more homes and apartments. That's what I will do when I'm governor. I will build 20,000 new houses and apartments, and I'll use the millionaire's tax to pay for that. I'll also have protections on tenants' rights. I've met so many families who've been kicked out of their apartments in the middle of the school year, have to move to another town, totally upend their families' lives. I've also got part of the money that I will put towards rent relief. We know, in fact, that 1 or 2 months' rent can really help a family so they don't get pushed out of their apartments. So there's a lot to be done. This is a place where we have very big differences in our policies. This is the #1 thing I want to work on, and it's so important that we get it right. Building 20,000 new houses and apartments is the way to go.
Mr. McKee, I'll let you speak broadly about housing, but the original question is, if the General Assembly passed legislation to block rent control in Providence, would you sign it?
Yes, first of all, you got to see the bill. And so I definitely would talk to any mayor that's in Providence if they're trying to help with that area. But I want to talk about this housing thing. My opponent's housing plan doesn't work. In fact, it's going to delay production. She's counting on a millionaire's tax that we actually have put those dollars to help with child tax credits. Trump's pushback on health insurance, keeping 20,000 people on health insurance that are not on health insurance. That's how we're using the millionaire's tax, and we're going to eliminate the Social Security tax once and for all in this state. And those dollars are going to help us do that to help families in terms of the affordability issues. Her plan will not take a dollar of revenue in until probably the summer of 2028. And then it takes time to actually build out the buildings, and from permitting to actually ribbon cutting is another 2 years. She won't have a shovel in the ground till probably 2029, 2030, and she said she's going to build 20,000 housing units with those dollars. The timeline does not work. We have a plan, the first plan in 20 years for housing. We've done over 8,300 units since I've been governor. We talked about and over 1,200 with the bond that was just passed in 2024, and we still have only used half the money. So we are in a spot right now where we're actually making progress on this, and the way you control rents and control costs is by creating inventory. My opponent's plan will not put a shovel in the ground because there'll be no money to actually build the houses that she's talking about until about probably 2029.
All right, Ms. Foulkes, 30 seconds. Does he have that timeline right?
Well, he's changed his numbers, but I think the fact of the matter is I voted for the housing bond a couple years ago because housing really, really is important to me. But when I learned that of $120 million, we're going to send $70 million to Wall Street to pay interest on that bond and only build 600 units, an average price of $500,000 apiece. These are low-income houses. That's the RIPEC report. You can go back and look at the facts. Yeah. So this is is not making the difference we need. We need 20,000 new homes and apartments. If you look around the country, we have to be much more ambitious than the governor's being, and that's why my plan is so focused.
Briefly, she's citing a RIPEC report, Mr. McKee.
Well, first of all, the number is 1,200. We've used half the money. But when you make the money that my opponent made, $80,000 a day, as you were letting 2,000 people go, your urgency is not there. I'm telling you, she couldn't respond. Her timeline doesn't work. If she puts in a tax, right, in this next session, we don't collect that money until the probably 2028, right?
But does RIPEC have the numbers wrong?
Yeah, they have the number wrong. They should call us up and we'll give them the number. We did 8,300 units since I've been in office.
Okay.
We have 6,500 that are in the affordable category and 1,200 in the bond that was passed in 2024. But let's get back to the timeline.
Last week he said...
the urgency is now, not in 2028, 2029. Your plan will not bring a dollar in of tax revenue until that time frame. Just do the math. I know how budgets work. When people pay that millionaire's tax, they're not going to pay it until the spring of 2028.
Final word, Ms. Foulkes.
The urgency is now. I could not agree more. I could not agree more with the governor. He has not acted with a sense of urgency around this issue. Part of the number he's taking credit for, he's saying 8,300 today. He had 7,000, he said, same number last week. I went back and looked at his 7,000. A good chunk of those 7,000 that he talks about are houses units that he protected that didn't get demolished. He's counting that in his production of new homes and apartments. So nothing has happened. I'll go back to my original premise. There's not a single city or town.
Answer the question about
There's not a single city or town.
You won't get a shovel in the ground until about 2029.
Governor, stop.
Can I respond to that?
No, there's not a single city or town.
I got to calm down.
Mr. McKee,
respect this office. I am the governor of the state of Rhode Island, and you're disrespecting this office. And she's still not talking about the timeline.
Okay, we're going to move on.
No, I want to make this final point.
So you're saying, Governor, that the millionaire's tax, if passed by the Assembly, by the time the new budget took effect, you say the money wouldn't be there? Is that what you're...
The money is not coming in until people pay that taxes in 2028.
No. What do you say to that specific question?
She won't have
Next year, the millionaire's tax is being phased in. Next year, we get half of a year. So that'll be $23 million next year for this current budget. Let's assume that's already accounted for, and I understand that. Then you go forward. The following 4 years, there's close to $500 million starting right away that does come in. This also creates a revolving budget, a revolving loan. So what's also very important and different in my plan,
folks.
Yeah, is that it's a loan that we get paid back on. Okay? The governor's money goes away, mine comes back. It is a very important difference. Once you understand it, you can see how much more we could do with it.
Trump has caused a big problem with using the millionaire's tax to help people that need the help right now. My opponent should understand that. She put money into a Trump victory fund, and then she put money into McConnell's pocket, and then he went on and took away Roe versus Wade. So I understand that you don't understand.
We are getting far away from housing at this point.
But I will say, Ms. Foulkes, I received an email from a viewer, a Democratic primary voter, concerned about your 2014 donation to Mitch McConnell.
Okay, good. I want to talk about this.
And has seen the governor's ads about the Trump Victory Fund. So please do respond to that.
Yes. So the governor has many, many lies he's told about me.
But you did.
And and I'm going to start with his allegation that I gave to Trump. I never gave a dime to Donald Trump, and he knows that. I think Trump is the most despicable president we've ever had in United States history. Okay? I made a donation in 2014 to Mitch McConnell, and I did something that politicians never do. I said it was a mistake. I did it because we were working on both sides of the aisle to save the Affordable Care Act. I made a mistake. But he is lying about Trump. He is lying about so many things. Meanwhile, the crisis in this state is so urgent. We're 50th in the state in our economy, housing, bridges and roads, and we're the 5th most expensive place to live. So we need a change. We do not need a governor who is going to spend his time attacking me instead of focusing on the real problems that this state has.
Mr. McKee, the McConnell donation. Audience, please. Mr. McKee, the McConnell donation was a direct donation. The Trump donations you're talking about would be passing through a PAC.
My opponent should ask for the money back if she's so disturbed about it. She wasn't disturbed when it was happening in 2017, when her money went into a Trump victory fund. But the McConnell thing is really disgusting. This is 4 years after McConnell said he was going to make Obama a one-term president, and she sends a check to him. And then stacks the Supreme Court, and Roe v. Wade gets overturned. That's why Planned Parenthood is supporting me and not my opponent.
Candidates, we're going to do this 10 seconds and we're moving on.
That's rich, because I was the person in the last election who pushed him to sign the EACA to make sure that women on Medicaid in this state could get access to reproductive care. This is not something he supported. It was my condition.
All right, we're moving on, candidates. Shares in the Rhode Island casino.
First of all,
We are moving on,
candidates.
Way ahead of my opponent.
Shares in the Rhode Island casino operator Bally's have plunged this week after the company warned regulators there's, quote, substantial doubt about its ability to continue operating over the next year. Gambling, as you both know, is one of the state's top sources of revenue, and Bally's plays a huge role in that. Mr. McKee, today your independent opponent, Ken Block, criticized you and the General Assembly for a law in 2024 he says, quote, relaxed financial safeguards on Bally's and was a serious failure of oversight. How do you respond to Mr. Block?
Well, I'm not going to respond to Mr. Block. Well, he's not even on the stage tonight. Look, I've talked to the people that are in charge of Bally's statewide. We're secure in terms of the revenue that we're going to receive from Bally's. That's my job, and I feel comfortable about that. And if there's any change in direction, the leadership at Bally's is going to let me know.
So you think the 2024 law you signed on Bally's was still the right decision?
Yes, I think that we're getting good revenue from it. And again, we have a good partnership there with both IGT and with Bally's. And we're going to continue to work with them through this time frame when they, when this issue is coming up front. But my job is to protect the people in the state of Rhode Island, and I'm comfortable that we're protecting those revenues.
Ms. Foulkes, not an issue that's come up a lot. What is if you were governor today, how would you be addressing this sudden situation with Bally's?
It is the third largest source of revenue in the state, $313 million a year, so it's very important. Bally's stock price dropped 30% today. The people in the company are saying they'll be fine, but I wouldn't take their word for it. If I were governor, I'd be working on a plan B. I would say, what will I do if this company doesn't get through it? Because we don't want to be held in that situation. So when you're leading an organization, hope is not a strategy. You have to have a plan B, and that's what I'll work on.
Yeah. Look.
All right.
We've brought in 37,000 private sector jobs. We have more companies that have come in during my watch than the time that my opponent was on the EDC board and actually left the state of Rhode Island on that board when we actually needed leadership. I'm providing the leadership. She quit on Rhode Island. I will never quit on the people in the state of Rhode Island.
Ms. Foulkes, on your time on the EDC board?
So 37,000 jobs is a number that the governor likes to quote, and I think it's important. I went back and looked at his data source, and he is starting from March of 2021. Okay, this was the height of COVID. And so he's taking full credit for COVID recovery. You can look across the country. Jobs all came back because of that. If you look at the last 2 years using the same data source, we've not added a single job in this state. Okay? We are hurting. We have the 50th worst economy in this country because of this governor's leadership. It's really important that we get back on track.
But what do you say specifically to the charge that you quit the EDC board during a crisis when you did have some responsibility for the state's economic policy?
Well, yes, that was a really challenging time. I was under Governor Chafee. He had come in. The board ahead of us had voted on 38 studios, which was a terrible decision they made, and we were trying to clean that up. And I was frustrated. I thought that the governor was, in some ways, putting politics ahead of the people in that moment, and so I decided to walk away.
That's kind of a theme for my opponent. Look, I took over Commerce in the middle of the COVID, and now today it's working significantly better. I chaired that board. And by the way, there's people that are still on that board that didn't quit on Rhode Island like my opponent did back in that time frame. Well, you did quit. You quit.
I'm talking, I think what's really important, Governor.
And now you're telling us as governor you're going to provide that leadership when you quit on the state of Rhode Island when we had 10% unemployment rate and we didn't. And by the way, I can't find one business that you brought in during that time frame that you were on that board for a year and a half plus. Look, the notion that somehow that you continue to attack, you've been running for this office for 6 years, Your energy plan is going to cost us more money. Your housing plan is a house of cards. And then you keep on disparaging the state of Rhode Island every single chance you get. You're not a cheerleader for this state. Look, I was a job creator, and I'm going to continue to create jobs. You're a job killer, and you didn't have the courage to stand as other people did when we needed you most.
Ms. Foulkes, final word, and then we're moving on.
I'm certainly not disparaging the state of Rhode Island. I'm disparaging its governor.
I am the state of Rhode Island. When you disparage, when you disrespect.
I gave you your moment. You give me mine.
Oh, yeah, I got to hear more about this one.
He is not a job creator, okay? We're 50th in the country right now. We have so much work to be done. People are leaving this state because they don't think that they can get a good job or stay here. We have so much work to do. I'd love to talk about my plan, but it's very important that we understand what's going on. Zero job growth in the last 2 years.
All right, candidates, we have about 5 minutes before we get to closing statements here. I want to talk about SNAP benefits. Mr. McKee, as you well know, these federal dollars for food assistance are they're in turmoil. Rhode Island is facing potentially a $50 million penalty because President Trump's big, beautiful bill requires states to get it right in distributing benefits. And just yesterday, DHS told Target 12 that Rhode Island's current annual error rate is above 14%. That is way above the 6% threshold the feds require. Why has your administration not been able to get its arms around this error rate?
Well, the numbers are not correct. The 14,
I got this from your DHS.
The 14% was when I came into office. It's down to 12. Last month it was about 8.
But I said the annual. That's the annual rate that I gave. That's the number I cited.
That's right. So you're moving it down, and we put together a strategy here. But look, the Trump administration put a lot of pressure on the SNAP program. When he shut down the SNAP program, right, because the government was shut down, I'm the governor that went and made sure that every single family got their SNAP benefit this fall. The error rate is going to come down. We have put in a program in that space. I'm comfortable that the DHS is going to be able to handle it, just like they have every other crisis that has come that way since I've been in office. You know, the UHIP didn't work very well for the previous administration. I haven't had one of those, and I'm not going to have a situation where we're paying a penalty. We have good quality people, and for this, my opponent, to be attacking the people again tonight that are in place doing this job, I find that unforgivable. I stand by the people that work with me because of the work that we're getting done. And give me an example where we failed. Give me one example where we failed in DHS.
All right.
In DHS.
I'll give 3 examples.
Oh.
Okay.
You only asked for one.
It is a lack of competency. We do have a very high SNAP error rate. That will mean we're going to send $100 million in penalty to the federal government. Okay? So this is an important component of leadership. I'll give you another example. We spent $90 million or more on our state systems, and yet this governor couldn't get the W-2 rights for state employees. The W-2 forms went out in December. They were incorrect. That has been a fiasco under his leadership. And I'll give you one more. When I'm governor, we won't spend $70,000 on a rug in my office that has the wrong name of the state on it. I'll just go to Ocean State Dot Lot and buy one myself.
Yeah, so again, misinformation. We are not going to pay a penalty. We're right on top of this, just like we are on every other issue in the state of Rhode Island. My opponent is a corporate elite person that has let people go when she was making $80,000 a day. She doesn't understand what we're going through and what people are going through. And by the way, the union that is most impacted by this, Council 95, is endorsing me. They know that I bring them to the table every single day to make sure that we work through these things. We were doing payroll on a typewriter when I showed up. We were doing finances in a way that was archaic. Yes, we put a plan in. It had some bumps, but we're far better off having put this in place than we were before, and that's why Council 94 is supporting me completely.
You know, can I answer? He keeps bringing up my corporate background. I started working at CVS in a cubicle right out of school. I had almost every job you could have over 25 years. I had my 4 children while I was there. I got cancer while I was there. I had good bosses. I had bad bosses. I learned a lot about leadership, and I learned to go to the front line and listen. I also have the support of an incredible number of unions, including the SEIU, who represent the janitors and the social workers in the state. I've got 19 Democratic town committees endorsing me. This is the first time in the history of the state Democratic Party that the state party did not endorse the sitting Democratic governor. The AFL-CIO decided not to endorse the sitting Democratic governor. I think that says a lot about his leadership.
Okay.
It doesn't say much when the majority of the AFL-CIO, 70% are with me. The people are with me because I'm with the working family.
20 seconds
They're
each.
not with my opponent because she represents.
I want to make sure you have time, Mr. McKee, for your closing remarks. Okay, so 20 seconds each. Look, it's been a tense campaign, both of you. What is something you admire about your opponent? Mr. McKee,
I think we all admire family, and certainly Helena does a great job with her family.
All right, Ms. Foulkes.
Yeah, I agree with that about the governor, too. I think he's a real family man, and I appreciate that.
All right, candidates, as I said, you now have the opportunity to give a 1-minute closing statement. We drew this order randomly prior to the beginning of this debate. And up first, Mr. McKee, your 60-second closing remarks.
Yeah, this is a very important election. There's a choice here. There's a choice between myself, a governor that stood with working families and working people my whole career, and a unapologetic CEO who is out there making $80,000 in a day when the average family makes about $88,000 a household. So this election is critical to the state of Rhode Island. I'm here to ask for the support. I think you've seen how unprepared my opponent is to tackle these really important issues in the state. I've been tackling them. I'm asking for your support in this election. It is a critical one. The families in the state of Rhode Island, the working families in the state of Rhode Island are at risk in this election because you have a corporate executive that had put people last and profits first their entire career. I'm asking for your vote. It's happening right now. Get out and vote. Let's make sure we activate this vote. We got to keep representing the people in the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. Now, Ms. Foulkes, your 60-second closing remarks.
The governor has chosen to spend most of tonight talking about my past, but we know that elections are about your future. Our state is in very tough shape, but I'm an incredible optimist. I believe together there's so much we can do to build housing that works for everyone, great paying jobs, and really restore our healthcare system. One of the things I learned most from both my parents, and it's the essence of the Democratic Party, is the idea that we take care of each other. That's why I've been so honored to have the support of the SEIU, 19 different Democratic and town committees, and people all over this state of Rhode Island. I hear you. I know we need change. I'm ready to lead, and I ask for your help tonight. I'd like you to join with us. I'd like your vote, and together I know we can make the change that's needed.
Thank you, Ms. Foulkes. And why don't we give, I want to thank both of the candidates for taking part in this important debate, and briefly, let's have the audience applaud you both. Okay, well, 12 News will continue to have complete coverage all the way to primary day. Stay tuned for more debates this fall leading up to the general election.
Remember that primary day is Wednesday, September 9th, and again, early voting starts on Thursday. You can check your polling place at vote.ri.gov.
We've had a long debate series here on 12 News. If you missed any of those debates, you can watch them on WPRI.com, or you can download the free 12 Plus TV app. And this Friday on Newsmakers, we're going to be taping an analysis of this debate with our 12 News political analyst Joe Fleming to break down all the highlights from this important debate. And again, if you missed any of it, you can watch it right now on WPRI.com and on our free 12 Plus TV app. And don't forget to watch us on primary night for complete coverage as we bring you live results of all the races this election season. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. Thanks for watching.